Wubba wubba, I'm in the pink today, boy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Fatal Fury Retrospective. It's finally time to learn about this classic SNK game. We've checked out some of the designs from City of the Wolves with mixed reactions, but there's a lot more history to it than just the latest game. And I'm excited to learn about the origins of some of these iconic characters that we know of, but just don't really know about. But of course, today we're checking out Thorgi's video on it, which if you haven't already, please make sure to go and support Thorgi. Link to that is at the very top of the description, as always. All right, let's get right into it. Oh, and we'll probably have to split this up into maybe 2 or 3 parts. We'll see how much we talk. You guys know that we yap a lot when we react, so.
Yep.
Why, hello there, everyone, and welcome to the second installment in our new series, Fighting Game Retrospectives. And I've got to say, I was blown away by the support that you all showed to our first episode. So many people shared that video around the web or contacted me on Twitter to tell me how much they enjoyed it. I'm honestly shocked it got so much attention since we were covering Rival Schools, a game.
Well, dude.
Yeah, I have to say, I've never heard of that.
Me neither. But also, these retrospectives, they really gather all the information and put into one neat package that people can enjoy. They're about fighting games, which I think they're really cool, but they're still pretty niche, even nowadays. So just anything more talking about them and bringing new people into the scene is definitely going to get a lot of positivity from both people outside and inside the fighting game community. So this series is just perfect. Yeah, just
definitely true.
Please keep on making these. As long as there are fighting games out there, keep on making them.
That by today's standards is rather obscure. I mean, you'd think that for our very first episode, we'd want to go with something a bit more well-known, something more mainstream.
Usually,
something more predictable. And the most obvious joke of the entire episode is out of the way. We can begin our show and take a look at Fatal Fury, one of the most legendary fighting games of the 90s.
Definitely one of those that I've always heard the name around. Like, I have a presence of it in my head, but I know pretty much nothing.
Same here. I know of Terry. I know of Mai. I thought SNK was a fighting game, not a company. So that's basically all I do about this going in.
I'm sure I would recognize characters as they come up, much like I did with BlazBlue.
Yeah.
Just from having seen them around on the internet, but didn't know what they were from necessarily. But yeah.
I'll probably have the same experience here. Like, some of these designs are likely iconic. They just stick in your memory. There's something that I love about the old, like, arcade pixel art style.
I agree, yeah.
It just works so well. And the way that it's animated makes it look so smooth. I almost enjoy it more than, like, modern day animation, but...
It's definitely one of those things where it's, like, kind of with, like, the loss of 2D animated films. It's one of those where it's, like... I kind of mourn its passing a little bit. Like, there's still some people trying to, like, keep that style alive, especially in indie. It holds a special place in my heart, for sure. I love the old pixel art stuff.
I wasn't in time to appreciate it, but I have heard that this pixel art style looked even better on the screens back in the day when they were, like, CRT, because of how it worked or something, and then it gave the picture depth and more vivid colors or something like that we won't be able to experience because of the digital format that we have nowadays. Kind of a shame, but...
I didn't experience it quite like that either, but I know, in theory, how it worked. It's really cool.
Also, side tangent, but do you think this guy is the neatly dressed guy that you really like the design of in City of the Wolves? Just a younger version of him? You remember him? Like, he was wearing the white suit. You said that he looked kind of like Kaiba.
Yeah. No, I see what you're saying. Yeah, could be.
Could be. I forgot his name, but he's definitely giving out the same vibes.
He's got the Kaiba energy.
Yeah. Hey, that's rock.
In the early 90s, the arcade scene was exploding across the world. It felt like no matter where you went, you'd see a big colorful box flashing 16-bit graphics and blaring chiptune music.
I wasn't even
Malls,
alive
restaurants,
yet.
hell, even laundromats. Everywhere that you went, there was an arcade cabinet.
I definitely was not a part of the arcade era. I missed that. I kind of am sad about it because it seemed awesome.
Yeah. An area where you get to go and play video games with other like-minded people who also enjoy video games. Like, what is that not a good time?
Just waiting to take your quarters. And out of all the companies trying to build up their video game empire, none were quite so okay about it as SNK. Throughout the 80s, this Japanese company had been pumping out multiple games, and while they did see success with a handful of them, such as their run-and-gunner Ikari Warriors in 1986, none of their games had yet to make them explode. Nothing had made them the big-name developer that they were hoping to become. However, things in the arcade scene were about to change when in February 1991, Capcom released Street Fighter II, a game that would make fighting games a dominant genre for years to come.
I mean, it all comes back to Street Fighter, right? This was the one that kind of set the trend and set the standard for a lot of other fighting games to come.
It makes sense how fighting games were really popular in the arcade era because it's kind of that. I mean, I think we're seeing the similar aspect of it now with the kind of like 4-player co-op games with things like Lethal Company, right?
Yeah.
Where just you can have your friends sat down next to you and just beat the fighting game. Like that's you know.
Yeah.
And when like you said, where that whole generation, it's like you went to the physical location and you played games together. So like a fighting game makes sense that it would thrive in that environment.
The way fighting games are made as well, with the motion inputs and the different button combinations, would 100% appeal to the kind of gamers that would go to arcades. The amount of skill expression that you could have, and the sense of accomplishment that you would feel by, well, beating the shit out of the person who's sitting next to you because you're just straight up better than them, right? Like, I could see that appealing to a lot of people.
Especially since, internet wasn't so much a thing then, so a lot of like information is shared word of mouth, so like sharing combo strings and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, the word of mouth about different secret techniques that you have. Oh, if you actually do this combination frame technique, if you actually do this combo of buttons frame perfectly, they actually combo off of each other when they normally wouldn't and stuff like that. Or like, I'm pretty sure there's a particular motion that is popular among fighting games nowadays that was actually like a bug back in the day. No, I think it was just straight up the comboing into different attacks that is now a staple in fighting games, but that was not the intended way of playing them originally. There's a lot of cool stuff that came to be because of the things gamers found out about how you could play these games that also extend into other video games too. So yeah. Just a hallmark of video game history.
After this release, everyone started jumping on that fighting game bandwagon to try and get some of that sweet, sweet Hadouken gold. And SNK was at the front.
Also, to be honest, I can see this being extremely profitable because fighting game rounds don't last very long, and you probably have to insert a quarter, like however many times that you play. So it just eats up the quarters super fast, and people get addicted to it.
Two for 2 players.
2, yeah. You double the money.
On that line, as they were already working on their own fighting game franchise before Street Fighter II was even released. Now, based on the timing of these releases, it's very likely that SNK saw the early promotions for Capcom's upcoming game and decided to get to work quickly on a competitor. But they didn't want to rip Street Fighter off, no, they wanted to succeed it. And so they put Takashi Nishiyama in charge of the game. Who is Takashi Nishiyama? Oh, nobody special, just, the director and co-creator of the original Street Fighter game. Now, I know that Street Fighter didn't really explode until the second game, and if we're being honest, that first game is kind of rough. But it would...
Yeah, I mean, it's only till Street Fighter 2 where things started really coming to form. And there's a lot of different versions of Street Fighter 2. I know that there's one in specifically that people will mention being like the inspiration for all other fighting games, 2D fighting games to come. Don't think it was the first one, though. I mean, it's kind of like Guilty Gear with like the Xrd, Rev 1, Rev 2 kind of thing going on back then. Yeah.
It's still a success for Capcom that was groundbreaking at the time. So imagine this. Capcom comes out with their new Street Fighter game. The world instantly goes crazy for it, so SNK decides to walk up and challenge them, and in their corner is the guy who made the game that made Capcom's new game even possible. This is like Jordan being on the Washington Wizards going up against the Chicago Bulls. Or some more modern sports metaphor. Point is, it was a big deal. This new game would become Fatal Fury, or as it was known in Japan, Garo Densetsu, which roughly translates...
Oh, no wonder why. I have heard the term Garo being thrown around, but I never knew like how it was related to Fatal Fury. No, it's just the Japanese name for it. Gotcha.
To the legendary Hungry Wolf.
The City of the Wolves. There you go.
God, do I love that name. Now, when it comes to the gameplay, you can certainly see some similarities between the original Street Fighter and this game. For anyone who has played Street Fighter 1 and Street Fighter 2, they feel very different, as Street Fighter 2 focuses more on combos and quick combat, while the original Street Fighter was basically just who could get their special move out first. Well, compared to Street Fighter 2, Fatal Fury saw a much larger focus on using special moves at precise times, which has caused many people to actually say that Fatal Fury feels more like the true successor to the original Street Fighter. Which, again, the original Street Fighter is rough, so it's not the biggest compliment, but it is something. However, there were two other features to this series that would make it stand out as its own thing. The first was the two-lane fighting system. This meant that there were essentially two planes that you could fight on, and you could jump between them to avoid attacks. This mechanic stuck with the franchise almost through its entire history, and while it was always something of a controversial part of the series, with some people enjoying it for the mind games.
I never knew that was a thing with the Fatal Fury games.
That is fascinating.
Because that's not what you would normally expect from a 2D fighter. And you could maybe see this in a 3D one, but
I mean, the idea of like dodging in space.
Yeah. We don't have that in any of the fighting games that we played so far, so it's almost like one of the beat 'em up games where the position where you are on the screen is relative to, like, you know, whether your punch lands or not, but not quite to that extent. It's just two lanes.
While other people found it awkward and clunky, it did make this game unique. This was years before fighting games moved into the third dimension, so creating a 2D fighter that actually gave the field a depth that could be explored was revolutionary, even if it was rather limited.
Then, yeah, I guess that means that Virtual Fighter wasn't released yet at this point. That makes sense. Or this is kind of like playing with the idea of depth within the screen. Cool.
However, the big thing that made this game unique and what brought in the most fans and arguably helped to establish all future SNK fighting games was the story. These days, we're all used to every fighting game coming with a big, crazy, over-the-top story mode, but back in the early 90s, every single fighting game consisted of, there's a tournament, some evil guys at the top, fight him, hooray, a winner is you.
A classic starter with the tournament arc.
Yeah.
I mean, Guilty Gear started out that way too, and then we kind of, went crazy afterwards.
Fatal Fury established characters, a world, and a lore that would go on to expand not just throughout this series, but into other fighting games as well. In a 2011 interview with OneUp.com, Nishiyama said that when he was making Street Fighter, he wanted the game to have a big story, to feel like a movie. So he created deep, rich backstories for every single character. He came up with everything from their family tree to their favorite foods. However, due to hardware limitations, everything that he created had to stay in his head, as there was no way to put any of that up on the screen.
That is unfortunate. Like, with these awesome ideas, too early. Too early in the history of mankind for technology to advance to that point. But hey, at least now we have it, so I guess lucky us.
Yeah. I wonder, as Street Fighter went forward in later games, if those original ideas of his were able to come out, or if those kind of got thrown to the wayside and changed into whatever they became.
Yeah, I don't know a whole lot about Street Fighter lore at all, so I'll have to dive into that eventually. I just know that in the latest Street Fighter, there is like the world tour, where it's an open world where you explore, then you meet the characters, and then you learn fighting techniques from them. So I don't know how in-depth that's going to get into their backgrounds, their histories, whether there are certain characters that might be related to other characters that previously showed up in the series or anything like that. But I definitely think that with fighting games, having the story is important because it gives meaning to the character, and it can be a point of interest for you to hone in on that character?
Not to bring up gacha games, because no one wants to talk about that. But I feel like there's a similar problem with fighting games and gacha games in that your characters sell your game.
Yeah.
If you don't have good and interesting characters, no one will care. And part of that is the story and the background and everything that goes with them to make them interesting characters.
Yeah, I 100% agree. There's only a certain amount that the fighting game mechanics itself can carry you. Like, that has to be good. But if your characters are top notch with their design and their story, and they're just super intriguing and people want to play them and learn how to play them, even if they're not interested in the game itself, then yes, you've succeeded as a fighting game.
I mean, that was the whole reason I wanted to play Guilty Gear, despite not necessarily being good or invested in fighting games at all.
Yeah.
But I saw the characters around and I fell in love with them and I wanted to play it for that.
I mean, Testament's design is got a peak. I'm not going to deny.
Yeah.
Heck, they couldn't even give each character unique win quotes. So when he was put on Fatal Fury, he said that the story would have to be important and at the forefront of the game. And so we were introduced to Terry Bogard, a man who...
I'm starting to understand why you guys were so pushing for us to check out Fatal Fury, because our whole like sticking point to fighting games is the story itself and the lore and whatnot. So if Fatal Fury really pays attention to that, then I think this is going to be an absolute blast.
Kind of open the door for story in fighting games, seemingly.
Yeah. To see that history too of like, something that people had never considered when it came to fighting games, starting off with Fatal Fury. That's awesome.
10 years ago saw his adopted father Jeff murdered by the criminal Geese Howard. Now in the present, Geese has risen to be the kingpin of Southtown, a fictional city that was closely based on Miami. Terry returns to Southtown when he learns that Geese has set up a tournament to find new henchmen to work for him, and he sees this as his opportunity to take revenge. This story provided Fatal Fury with a much more personal feel than other fighting games of the time, as you weren't on a quest to save the world or prove that you're the strongest.
You have personal stakes.
No, this whole thing was about Terry's story. The stakes instantly felt more important to the player as you felt this disgust for Geese that you didn't have for characters like M. Bison, because at the time, they were just bad guys who were holding tournaments. Any connection that you had to them typically didn't get explained until the very end of the game. Oh, Chun-Li, you were fighting to avenge your father. That's news to me, but
you probably want to set that up first,
I guess that's why we were doing all this. But here, right from the start, you knew this was the quest to take down the man who killed...
Oh, hey, it's Billy Kane. You know, the guy with the rod? the red staff?
The guy with the rod.
The guy with the red rod, yes. Actually, all guys have rods, true. But he had a really, funky design. I guess he's one of Geese's henchmen. That makes sense. His design changed a lot in City of the Wolves, didn't it?
Terry's dad, and turned his hometown into a city overrun with crime and corruption. And if you just go and pick up the game and play it as is, you probably think that I'm giving it way more credit than it deserves. You're probably thinking to yourself, hey, there were other fighting games with story elements like this. True, but none of them used the story to promote themselves. As the game came out, SNK put out books, magazines, advertisements, all focused on the story of Fatal Fury so that audiences went into this not looking to see people fight, but wanting to see what happened next to these characters. And this story would continue to grow with every new installment, and in some cases, within other games. In many ways, Fatal Fury was the Iron Man to the SNK video game universe, as in later years, Nishiyama would go on to create the Art of Fighting franchise, another series set in Southtown several years before the events of Fatal Fury, and as I said, Geese Howard was hosting a tournament. That tournament's name? The King of Fighters.
Hey, there we go. So that's how it all ties in.
I was born. Damn.
Would eventually split off to become its own franchise and would become SNK's most popular series. But that's all stuff for another episode. Let's actually delve into this series itself. Now, the history of Fatal Fury can be divided into 4 sections, starting with the original trilogy.
I never had any Yu-Gi-Oh, but that sounded iconic.
Fatal Fury was released in arcades in November of 1991, and automatically players could see a difference between this game and many of the other fighting games popping up to try and take advantage of Street Fighter fever. I already mentioned the unique gameplay elements such as the 2-lane system, but before you even got to the combat, as soon as you put your quarter in, you could see that you only had access to 3 characters. Terry Bogard, a man who was returning to Southtown to avenge his father in Geese Howard's tournament. Andy Bogard, Terry's brother who was also on a quest for revenge, who had spent the last 10 years training the art of ninjutsu under his master Hanzo Shiranui. You may want to remember that name for later. And lastly, the brothers were joined by Joe Higashi, a Muay...
Yeah, only thing I know about Andy is that he's the brother and also Mai's boyfriend. Although he is very oblivious to the fact.
Muay Thai champion from Japan, who met up with the two brothers and told them about the tournament.
Wait, what did you say? I'm the Muay Thai champion from Japan?
Fascinating.
And after learning about what Geese did to their father, he decided to join them to defeat him. Now, you might think that the...
What an honorable guy. Hey, so you fucked up your dad? I'll go beat him up with you. Let's go jump him. Hell yeah, dude.
The reason why this game only had 3 playable characters was because of technical limitations. After all, that's why the original Street Fighter only let you play as Ryu unless you picked Versus Mode, where you could play as Ken, who was just a recolored Ryu.
Just Ryu.
But actually, no, this game was fully capable of having the...
What? Is he hanging off of the railing on top there? I think that's what he's doing. Oh, and I just realized, look at the top left there. That's Mai. I didn't recognize her at first. That's 100% Mai.
There's a straight face.
Her design has certainly changed a lot from back then.
The other characters playable, as they were all selectable in Versus Mode. The reason why you could only pick 3 characters was because, as I said, this game wanted to place a lot of emphasis on the story, and Terry, Andy, and Joe are the heroes of this story. I mean, heck, I'm sure that if he could, I'm sure Nishiyama would have just stuck with Terry since he's the official protagonist and the one who canonically beats Geese, but you can't just give players one character to choose from, so throwing in Terry's brother just made sense since they both had the same motivation, and Joe was introduced because Nishiyama wanted to balance out the 2 more serious characters with a more jokey and upbeat character. Joe was actually inspired by Key Ranger, a character in Himitsu Sentai Guringer, a Super Sentai show from the 1970s that is widely credited in Japan as introducing the trope of serious characters having the humorous, goofy best friend. So in case you're wondering where all these characters came from, there you go.
Oh my god. I recognize a few of these faces. Oh, I see. I feel like I've learned about this site before, but yeah, that's awesome.
Now, after picking your character, the game begins, but rather than being treated with a traditional arcade ladder, you'd be met with the map of Southtown, and you'd make your way from one section to another to challenge the representatives of each neighborhood. Again, helping to give Southtown its own personality to make it feel more alive. It also gave the game almost a beat-em-up flavor, with the layout having clear inspiration from the Metro City map from Capcom's other big arcade franchise at the time, Final Fight. In fact, the beat-em-up comparisons don't even stop there, as you could also enter a 2-player mode where a friend could hop in to help you fight the opponent.
Oh.
Seems kind of unfair for a fighting tournament, but this is Southtown, there are no rules. The map also played into the presentation of the story, as after each match, you'd see your little avatar moving on to the next section of the town, only to then cut to Geese Howard like the big 80s business villain that he was, watching you from his office commenting on your progression, helping to raise the tension with each match as you see Geese gain more aggressive with each win, or you see him calling on his special henchmen to face you when you're getting close to the end, letting you know that the next opponent you face is going to be something really special. Now, as I said, you could only play as 3 characters in single player, but there was a wide variety of other fighters, many of whom would go on to be big names for SNK down the road, and Michael Max, Mike Tyson boxer number 25, who would be pretty much forgotten about right after this game. But as for everyone else, there was Tung Fu Ru, Terry's master who taught him how to use the power of the earth to perform his special attacks, and who may or may not have been heavily inspired by Master Roshi. Hua Jai, a Muay Thai champion who also acted as Joe's rival, Raiden, an Australian heel wrestler, Duck King, a funky fresh DJ with a pet chicken who, despite that very bizarre pitch, is actually a huge favorite among SNK fans. Really? And Richard Meyer, a Brazilian capoeira master.
You name someone Duck King, people are gonna like him.
Oh, maybe they like the pet chicken. You never know.
Who ran the Pow Pow Cafe, a nightclub that would actually go on to be one of the most frequent hangout spots in SNK history, appearing in multiple King of Fighters games down the road. This is another great example of how SNK was really set on establishing a world and separating themselves from other fighters.
Oh, wait a minute. I think there's a Street Fighter 6 level that they introduced that's inside this cafe when they introduced the SNK characters into the game. Oh, so that's what this is. Okay. That makes sense.
Out there. They wanted a more street level tone in their characters, and the Pow Pow Cafe is a perfect example of that. I mean, let me ask you all something. Where do Ryu, Ken, and Chun-Li all hang out? Anyone? Anyone at all? Is it under a waterfall and they all just sit there and meditate nonstop?
Probably.
How about Liu Kang? Where does he and the other Defenders of the Earth like to chill? Some mystic temple hidden away from the world?
I would
Terry
presume so.
and his pals all kick it at a bar. That's just a much more down-to-earth and relatable tone than other fighting games were presenting at the time. There was one other character in the roster before you got to the big boss himself, Billy Kane, Geese's right-hand man. Billy was a British street thug who would go on to become one of Terry's biggest rivals, but he also became a very morally gray character. Yes, he does work and pledge allegiance to the evil Geese Howard, but he does this because Geese rescued him and his sister Lily from the streets when they were younger and provided them with a comfortable life and took care of them. And there have been many moments over the series where Billy talked about Geese almost like he's a good thing for Southtown, like the city needs him. This is another great example of the complexities of these characters and of the world that they were establishing. This, of course, all.
I mean, yeah, that's good. That's good. We're establishing several different characters with motivations that make sense based off their backstory, and it just creates more intriguing situations of, you know, that gray area where the player can start to think for themselves of what's happening here. That being said, I still think Geese is probably just kind of a villain. He's the guy manipulating all these different thoughts. So, but you never know. Maybe he has a lot more complexity to him.
I don't think you're supposed to feel sympathetic for Geese. I think you're supposed to feel sympathetic for Billy.
Yeah, for sure. Of how he was unfortunately taken in by Geese, and now he feels indebted to him in some way because he took care of him and his sister. And I'm almost certain Geese did this to his own advantage for his own motives.
All led up to the big showdown atop Geese Tower against Mr. Howard himself. And while this fight isn't all that hard, especially compared to some of the later fights in this series, this was our first real introduction to Geese Howard himself, who would go on to become one of the greatest villains in fighting game history. His overwhelming offense, mixed with his counters capable of stopping anything in their tracks, his never-ending taunting loaded with intimidation and malice, and of course, his theme, Soy Sauce for Geese, which has been remixed a dozen times over and remains to this day one of the best boss themes ever.
Okay, what was the name of the theme? Soy Sauce for Geese?
That's
is that what it was?
This is how you do a fighting game villain. Now, Terry would go on to beat Geese in this tournament, knocking him off the top of Geese Towers, which kicked off one of the longest running story elements in video game history. Trust me, you will see this again. However, while getting knocked off of a building would be enough to put down most people, you can't keep a good SNK boss down for long. Geese would return, but not just yet. Even he needs a few days to recover from a 500-foot tall drop.
I think I recall seeing that when they had announced Terry in Smash, where there was a character that tried to jump for the card and then fell off the building in that exact shot.
I remember that. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, okay. They're definitely going to continue to reference this throughout the rest of the series. 100%.
This would lead into Fatal Fury 2, which was released in December 1992. And even though it had only been 1 year, this game saw
Legendary
a lot
men
of changes.
return.
For starters, the game now looked far better, as it was now using SNK's trademark 100 Megashock ROM system. Also, in terms of gameplay, this became SNK's first true 4-button fighter, using 2 punches and 2 kicks. And if you're familiar with SNK, you know this kind of became their go-to layout for most of their franchises moving forward. The 2-lane system was enhanced, so now certain attacks could actually knock your opponent into different lanes, and certain stages now featured destructible items on the field to help play into the street-level vibe of the series. Like this wasn't an official fighting ring you were in, you were just throwing down wherever. The game also introduced desperation attacks, super powerful moves that could only be performed when your life was low, making Fatal Fury the second game to ever introduce what the fighting game community would essentially call super moves, something their chief competitor Street Fighter wouldn't introduce until 2 years later. And of course, the biggest change was that except for the bosses, you could now pick whichever character you want, and boy, were there a lot of new characters to choose from. There was of course Terry, Andy, and Joe all returning, but as for the new fighters, there was Big Bear, formerly Ryan in the last game, who had been defeated by Geese, so he decided to give up his heel persona to become a face wrestler, and was now working side by side with Terry and his team. Then there's Jubei Yamada, a judo master who in his younger days was full of burning passion and ruthless dedication to the point where he was actually known as the Demon. But now in his older days, he's actually kind of an upbeat, fun-loving old man who goes out searching for action. Then there's Chin Senzan, a man who cares only about money and was actually inspired by one of the game's designers. No word, however, on whether or not that was a dirty jab at them by one of the developers that they
Hey boss, I designed this character after you. What do you think? You're fired. But boss, we already shipped this out of the game. You're double fired.
were unaware of, or if it was a good-natured joke that everyone was in on. He was also important to the story because despite his more humorous presentation, he actually trained under Tung Fu Ru aside Jeff Bogart and Geese Howard, and the three of them became known as the Three Brothers of Godly Battle. However, the two most important additions to the cast were Kim Kapwan, a Korean Taekwondo master who believed in justice and used—
Wait, is this the guy that we see in City of the Wolves? Wasn't his name also Kim? I could be misremembering. This is a very different design though.
I don't remember, yeah. I'm bad with remembering names.
Or maybe, you know, that's further in the future, so that might be like this guy's disciple or something. But hey, Taekwondo, that's the first character I think of from the ones that we know of.
Using his fighting power for good. Now, in Fatal Fury, Kim was certainly a favorite, but it wasn't until he moved over to become a regular in King of Fighters that his dedication to righteousness became a running gag that endeared him to players. And of course, the biggest introduction to the roster, Mai Shiranui.
Yeah.
Mai was the daughter of Andy's master and had also learned all the secrets of the Shiranui legendary ninja techniques. However, despite being such a studious ninja, she was actually a super bubbly and fun-loving girl who had a massive crush on Andy. Like, to an obsessive level. I'm talking, this isn't funny, you need to learn boundaries, girl. Seriously, he's not even the cool brother, what do you see in him level. Since her introduction, Mai has actually gone on to be one of, and some might even argue, the most popular SNK character of all time.
Yeah, you know,
I'd probably say so. Like, she's right up there next to Terry of like the characters that people would know.
She's one of the two characters I like know from the series, so like I couldn't put a name and a face together.
Especially with how much crossovers that she sees in basically every other fighting game ever that exists out there. Yeah, her exposure goes insane when it comes to Mai, which, you know, makes a lot of sense. From many different aspects.
Dozens of games, crossed over into several other series, has had her face slapped on merchandise the world over. She's pretty much SNK's Chun-Li.
I want that.
And part of the reason for that—
Wait, I think I have that exact thing on my throne list right now.
I believe that.
because of her fun-loving personality and memorable design. And the other 80% of it is because—
She does have a very good iconic design.
She does. She's very recognizable. And I can also understand why they do a lot of crossovers with Street Fighter 2, because like her and Chun-Li, they kind of went in the same direction with like the super bubbly girl who's here to, but a serious badass fighter too at the same time. So with one being the lady of Street Fighter, the other being the lady of Fatal Fury, makes sense. They have to fight.
At the risk of sounding crass, Sex Cells and SNK has made sure
they had the booba physics in the very first iteration of her in this pixel graphic art style. That is incredible.
To use her sex appeal so much, she's probably the only character to ever be banned from Smash Bros.
Yes,
No!
Mai Shiranui. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is for good boys and girls of many different ages, so we decided not to feature her.
Yeah, if you want to know—
No!
Damn, Sakurai.
Sakurai, why?
how over-the-top SNK is with her presentation, Bayonetta got into Smash Bros.
Right? What bullshit? Bayonetta, the character that Nintendo literally did a partnership with Playboy when they introduced her. Are you kidding me?
literally strips naked in our game, yeah.
This is discrimination.
Mai could not even be in the background. Yeah, this character right here, the one who strips naked to do her super moves, totally fine to include her alongside Mario and Kirby. But Mai? Whoa now, hold your horses. This is a family game.
I am so mad. There could have been greatness.
Bayonetta's still a win, though. We got Bayonetta, though.
Bayonetta's a win. I agree. But, like, clearly. Come on, man.
The game also had a collection of mid-bosses that weren't playable in the arcades, but would be playable in the home ports. This included the returning Billy Kane, Axel Hawk, a boxer who trained Michael Max and would be forgotten just as quickly, and Orange Blood, a brutish bullfighter. Now, 3 mid-bosses might seem like a lot, but they actually played into the story of the game, as before each match, you get a preview of the next fight with your new opponent coming on a TV screen to issue their challenge. But once you reach the mid-bosses, before each fight, the signal would be interrupted as a mysterious figure would appear, having beaten the fighters from the last game who didn't end up returning. This is when Fatal Fury really started to live up to the story elements that Nishiyama wanted to put into the game as
special about these older games where like things like that were so incredibly hype, which seems kind of underwhelming by today's standards. But like I kind of love that.
That there's a continuous story, or that the characters are related to each other in some way?
No,
what do you mean
like,
by that?
You're playing through and you have kind of that monotonous, and then it's like, oh, the signal is interrupted. This big bad is being teased. He's coming up. Oh my god.
Okay, I can see that.
Like,
yeah,
it's really simple, but like you don't see stuff like that. Just simplicity like that, and it wouldn't be as hype as it is today. And so kind of just that. I can't say it's nostalgia really because I didn't play games in this era really.
Yeah.
But like, I kind of miss that if that makes sense.
You missed that despite never having experienced it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can understand. Like, seeing these games makes you feel nostalgic for them despite never having seen them before or playing them.
Yeah, exactly.
There's just a quality about them that really brings you back to the past, which I enjoy a lot.
Did an excellent job of using each match to build tension. You know, like how a story would be paced out. And also played into the elements of the previous game, using them to enhance the new threat. You know, like a sequel should. The new boss they were setting up was Wolfgang Krauser, who despite looking like a purple-haired early 90s pro wrestler, was actually the Earl of the long noble Stroheim family and had been training in the deadly arts ever since he was a child, even killing his own father to take his mantle. He's also the younger half-brother of Geese and is one of the few people that Geese actually feared. Once he learned that Geese was dead, he decided to become the next host of the King of Fighters tournament so he could meet the man who killed Geese to prove how much stronger he was. He was defeated by Terry, and according to the short movie that would be released years later, took his own life in shame when he wasn't able to prove himself superior to his younger brother.
Yikes, bro. They released a short movie about that? I see. We do really care about our story and our characters and making sure that they have an ending in more ways than one.
Now that's it for Fatal Fury 2 proper, but the next year SNK would release Fatal Fury Special, an updated version of 2 that featured 2 characters from Fatal Fury 1 returning, Duck King and Tung Fu Ru, as well as making all 3 mid-bosses and Krauser playable. Also, several lines were now changed around for, well, honestly, no reason that I can tell, such as Terry's victory line, "You were really good," now being changed to the legendarily so bad it's brilliant line, "Wubba wubba, I'm in the pink today, boy."
You're right. I like it.
Terry! What? Also, apologies. I forgot to turn off my phone notifications. But I've never seen this before. And if I have, I probably thought that it was edited. Like, the moment I press play here, I'm half expecting Thorgi to tell me that he did this edit on his own, and it's not actually the line. But I also kind of want to believe in it, because this truly is peak. In what way? It depends on perspective. It's certainly memorable. Wow. Whenever I win a match, I should use this. What does that even mean? I'm in the pink today, boy.
I have no idea.
Whatever. Terry understands it and he's happy, so that's good enough for me.
Yeah, okay, I haven't talked about this yet, but this is easily the best time I'm ever going to get to bring this up. One of the other big charms of Fatal Fury was the hilariously over-the-top and sometimes even bizarre bits of dialogue. Now, I've tried finding out why the dialogue was always so odd, but I got nothing. I can't find any explanation for it. I mean, the obvious answer would be that this was made back at a time when Japanese games didn't have access to a lot of skilled localization teams. I mean, heck, you can just look at Capcom. They were plagued with that problem at the time. But I've heard from people who are fluent in Japanese that, nope, all this bizarre dialogue is accurate to what they were saying in the original. And this remained a part of the franchise all the way to the end.
Challenge me, ya hot spunky kid. I hate spunk. Thanks.
And even in the layer games, when you can tell they...
Oh, hey, it's this guy. You remember him,
I do
right?
recognize him, yeah.
Oh, it's the guy with the bird mask.
The bird head, yeah.
People translating this that knew what they were doing, there are still bits of dialogue that make you say, what? Who would say that?
No.
No. I'm finished. Farewell. No. Fatal Fury's kind of peak, guys.
Geese Howard calling someone a
I think I was
son of an...
unfamiliar with your game.
I wasn't aware of your game, sir. No.
You pink-headed son of an ice cream maker.
Okay.
You're pink-headed.
These insults, they are so unique and so creative. I love them. I need to like start writing some of these down so that I can use them. Like, these are also, technically speaking, family friendly. So they would get past anything that YouTube would say is a big no-no. I could just use this whenever I'm feeling really, really mad at somebody, you know?
Ice cream maker might be the most bizarre line I have ever read in a video game. I mean, what? Who? What does that even mean? Geez, you're so evil that I can't even comprehend your smack talk. Best I can figure is that these Japanese game developers were just huge fans of American action films and were trying to come up with their own clever one-liners. This would all...
Yeah.
I already see it. I already see just a bunch of nerds just being like, hey, this is gonna sound so cool. And I love them for that.
Also explain why the characters all have English lines, which, again, were way over the top with their deliveries. But I want to make something clear. This is not a negative of the series. Far from it.
No.
Fatal Fury fans love this about this series.
Hell
I
yeah.
love that, yeah.
I definitely think there honestly might have been a trend of this because I know that you haven't seen JoJo's yet, but you've probably at least seen some memes with Joseph going, "Oh no!
Oh yeah,
shit!"
definitely, 100%.
So that might have just been an era.
Oh my god!
Oh my god! Yeah. I think Fatal Fury kind of has the same energy. Truly,
yeah, I can see that.
Take these elements out of Fatal Fury, it's part of their DNA, it's part of their charm. Heck, it's one of the most legendary elements of the game. Where would this series be without Terry's okay or Geese Howard's
Okay.
And of course, my
a classic. Also, what did he say?
Okay or Geese Howard's and of course,
What did
my
you say?
personal favorite.
No, I can't. The crunchy audio.
I don't know, but I love it in anime whenever the characters do speak like the broken English and they say it so confidently.
My favorite, is when anime presents the just super broken English, like they're like an actual like foreigner character, like that's supposed to be genuine English, and that just I love it so much. It's like, yes, look at this American.
this American basketball player came over to Japan to play against our high school team. Yeah, totally American with that accent, 100%. Oh my god! Yes! Oh my god!
Yes, I love it.
Oh my goodness, yes. Oh.
This is some of the best stuff about the games, and I just had to stop real quick to point it out.
You know, I didn't know what Thorgi could throw at me to make me like really interested in just like fighting game, right?
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot of fantasy to it, but he's selling me more than I ever thought he could.
well, for Fatal Fury especially, like I knew that you didn't really have a whole lot of interest towards it because it's not the standard anime fighters that we've checked out so far.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. Maybe just be a little open-minded. You might be surprised at what you find on the other end. Yeah, exactly.
100%.
So
I'm having fun.
Thorgi's presentation is just phenomenal as well. Just like bringing out the points that people would truly enjoy about a series.
Definitely.
Or like the appeal of it, the main appeal of it. What sets it apart? This is so fun. Like, it knows what it is. It's having fun.
It's
and
campy.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Other addition to Fatal Fury Special that is certainly worth mentioning. There was one more character in the game, a special secret boss that you could face if you made it through the game without losing a match. Ryo Sakazaki, the protagonist of SNK's other early fighting game series, Art of Fighting.
Oh shit.
Crossovers.
This is like in SMT5 when you fight Demi Fiend. You're like fighting the protagonist of a previous game who's already gone through his character arc.
Now this might just seem like some cross-company fun, but actually this is a legendary moment for video games, as this was the first fighting game crossover ever.
Yo! That's awesome! Hell yeah!
Heck yeah!
Ryo popping up in Fatal Fury.
I love that when they show the countries and it's just the name written over them.
Special was it. This was the first time that we saw characters from different games fighting each other. And as I mentioned earlier, Fatal Fury did kick off what was essentially a shared video game universe for SNK, and this was the first big step for that, as Ryo was another character from Southtown, so seeing them meet up brought this universe closer together. And the fact that this was back before everyone could share information on the internet, and the only way that you could see this fight is if you got a perfect run on this.
That's what I was saying earlier. The kind of word of mouth spread of early arcade games.
Like, holy shit, dude. Have you heard? This character from Art of Fighting actually shows up in this game if you do this and then you beat the boss perfectly. And then people are going to be like, oh, damn, I gotta grind now. I gotta put in all the coins that I have in order to get to see this happen, you know? So that I can say that I fought Ryo Sakazaki in Fatal Fury 2 and I beat him, you know, at the bragging rights. That I'm one of the few people who knew of this and actually did it.
Insanely tough arcade game made this almost like an urban legend. The kind of thing that you might never witness for yourself, but you would hear people at your local arcade saying, "No, dude, it's real. I saw it. I swear." This was also another important moment for SNK, as this was the first time that they used the term dream match, implying that this fight wasn't really canon, more of just a matchup that they thought would be fun to see happen. And this would be a term that they would go on to use in future King of Fighters games, like King of Fighters 98 and 2002, games that didn't connect to the story, but instead were more of a smash.
That's a fun way to include characters that in the story wouldn't make sense anymore, but you still want them because they're popular.
So that we don't have to write some obtuse thing to bring them back to life, you know, constantly.
No Blaze Blue.
Well, okay. With Blaze Blue, we kind of had the out with the time travel thing, and the whole thing being like a virtual reality. How convoluted
it can get to keep them there.
Yeah. Here we can at least keep the story followable, grounded, yes, while still having fun. And people get to enjoy the fighting game the way that they want to.
I love this character select with all the pixel sprites. That's so fun.
Game. And this brings us to the final game in the Fatal Fury original trilogy, Fatal Fury 3 Road to the Final Victory, which released in March of 1995. And the first thing that you'll notice about this game is the
I was 1 year old.
Why weren't you in the arcades playing this, Irby? You should have been on the grind.
You're right. Damn it.
You failed.
My whole life
graphical
wasted.
overhaul. Not only does the art style and design of these characters now look far closer to what we expect from Fatal Fury, but also the character select screen, the stage map featuring unique travel animations for every single character,
so much
to
more
the special
character to
ending
it.
animations that you can get on stages if you finish a match with a certain move, to the cutscenes between the characters, it now all just oozes with personality.
What? My. What in the name of the great ice cream salesman? What? What is this about ice cream?
What is this legendary ice cream?
I need to know. Where does this show up in the lore?
It's hard to believe that this game came out only 2 years after the last installment. The improvements are mind-blowing. And that's not the only overhaul Fatal Fury 3 saw. When it came to the gameplay, things now moved much faster, and you could finally do decent combos rather than having to rely.
Really smooth.
For sure. Technology improved. They knew what they had to do.
No.
They are just making banger after banger, man. The ideas that they have to are just wholly unique to them. They're truly trailblazing right now. Oh, man. All their bullshit do be blazing, bro.
On single hits and specials. But most importantly, they took the lane system of the previous games and completely redesigned it.
Oh yeah.
Now instead of having 2 lanes that you could fight on, there would be 3 lanes, but you could only fight on the center lane.
That's really interesting. I've never seen anything like that before.
I don't know how this would work and how it would feel to actually play something like this.
You're right? Yeah.
The movements back and forth between the different lanes just look so smooth. It's almost like it's a real boxing match, you know, a real fight. Where you're like sidestepping your opponent's swipes and then just hitting them when they're weak. Yeah.
I can feel like, the skill expression you could show with that could be really cool.
Would be used mostly for sidestepping. You would hop out to avoid an attack, and then you could jump back in for a counterattack. This took the lane system from feeling like a gimmick that the game used just simply to make itself feel different, and now made an in-depth mechanic that greatly enhanced the combat. The story this time focused on the Jinn Scrolls, legendary artifacts that could only be obtained by strong fighters, and after missing for years, they finally reappeared in Cleveland, Ohio. I'm just kidding, it's obviously Southtown. Now in the previous games, each character would have little bits of dialogue between matches, but they were pretty generic lines, just stuff about wanting to fight. But here, almost every single line had to do with the characters looking for these scrolls, or whatever their own missions were. And characters that knew each other all had special dialogue between themselves. In fact, some dialogue even played off the previous matches to make it feel like there really was an overarching plot that was being built upon with each fight. And thanks to all this dialogue, this was the game where, to me, Fatal Fury really started to flesh out these characters and their big bombastic personalities started to shine. Not just by comparison to the last game, but by comparison to most fighting games in the mid-90s. As I mentioned with the first game, one of Nishiyama's goals was to make this game feel almost like a movie, and with each installment, it was clear they were getting closer and closer to achieving that. This was actually really impressive for the time, but yeah, there is one problem with it. I should probably go ahead and point this out, but even though I do applaud this game for giving the characters so much personality, someone on this staff really had a problem with women. Seriously, almost every single win quote against a female character ranges from yikes to big yikes. I mean, I'd say this dialogue didn't age well.
Yo! Go back in the kitchen! Oh! Damn. Bro has the gamer lingo. Just on lock before it actually came to be.
But I was alive in 1995. This wasn't good then. So, yeah, let's move on to the next talking point before I regret this entire episode. On the roster, there was of course Terry, Andy, and Joe, and mine was returning as well, becoming the first playable character outside of the original 3 to return for a brand new installment. But there was also Geese Howard returning to reveal he survived his plunge to his death. Apparently, Geese was in possession of one of these legendary scrolls, the Phoenix Scroll to be precise, which gave him enhanced healing powers, allowing him to survive his fall. He started this new tournament up to settle things with Terry, as well as to bring the other scrolls out of hiding so that he can destroy them so that no one can use them against him. Now, why wouldn't he use their powers for himself, you might ask? Because he's Geese Howard, do not question him, his ego knows no bounds. As for the new characters, there was Han Fu, a nunchuck-wielding police officer who was heavily inspired by Jackie
Well, no, it's not the character. We do have another police officer character in City of the Wolves. Definitely not this guy.
Shannon police story. Sokagu Michizuki, a Buddhist monk that belonged to a clan that was trained to be rivals to the Shiranui clan. Franco Bash, a former heavyweight kickbox champ who had retired, but after his son was kidnapped, he was forced to enter the tournament to get him back. And Bob Wilson, the capoeira protege of Richard Meyer from the first game. As for the mid-boss, we were introduced to Ryuji Yamazaki, a gangster who had worked for the Yakuza, the Chinese Mafia, and pretty much everyone else that could handle his crazy ass. He was sadistic, psychotic, and had a super-powered arm that was never explained in Fatal Fury, but in King of Fighters, which we should point out is a different continuity, so take this with a grain of salt, but in King of Fighters, it was explained that his power came from the evil blood of the god Orochi that ran through his body. And the only reason this power didn't overwhelm and control him like it did other members of the Orochi bloodline was because Yamazaki was too crazy for it. Again, this is...
to out crazy the evil god.
That is some high-level craziness right there. Bro put all of his stat points into crazy.
Is a different continuity from Fatal Fury, but being so crazy that he can overpower a god does kind of sum up Yamazaki's personality. Then the final boss and special boss were the twin brothers Jin Chanshu and Jin Chanrei, with Chanshu being the regular boss and Chanrei only being unlockable if you get a high enough score. These brothers were the guardians of the other two scrolls, and originally they were meant to be just one character with split personalities.
God, the way that this character moves, it looks so good, so fluid.
That's what I was just gonna say. I love the way he moves.
It's like they are a trained martial artist who knows exactly what you're going to do, and then they just sidestep it, and then quick chop, sidestep, quick chop.
Or just the movement, but it's like static, so they're just moving so fast. They're like sliding around. I love it.
Yeah. I love that they took the lane system and actually did something unique with it. I've never seen a fighting game
really
like
cool.
this.
Yeah.
You can do so many things.
I'm really curious for people who play these games, like if it was fun to play, or if it's one of those things where it's like, I love it in theory, but it kind of sucks. Like, it seems like it would be really, really cool. And like you could have a lot of really awesome skill expression with it.
But in practice, how did it feel? And I wonder if the newer like Fatal Fury, like City of the Wolves, does it have this system still? I don't think it does.
I was gonna say, I've never heard of this before, so I'm like, I am curious. Yeah, if they keep with it.
We'll see. Maybe Thorgi will mention whenever they get rid of the system. Which would be a shame, but maybe it really wasn't working out. You never know.
But when the developers couldn't decide between two different designs, they said, screw it, just split them up and have them be two fighters. Now there was one more addition to the roster that I'm sure everyone has been screaming at me that I forgot. And for good reason, as they're arguably the most important new character, Uki, Terry Bogard's pet monkey.
He looks very cute. I never knew that Terry had a pet monkey, though. This is new.
Me either. Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Not about Terry having a monkey. No, that's actually a thing. I meant about them being the most important new character, but hey, give me a break. There was no other good place to introduce the fact that Terry Bogard used to have a monkey.
Hey, remember when I had a monkey? Yeah, what was I thinking?
I mean, a monkey would be a terrible pet. Don't ever do that. But
yeah, for sure. That being said, here in Thailand, there are people who have pet monkeys, but it's mostly like the coconut farmers who train the monkey to go and harvest the coconuts for them. Outside of that,
I mean,
I don't
you
really
also
see a
just
use.
have them wild out running about.
Yeah.
New big character introduced was Android 18. I mean, Blue Mary.
No.
Who was actually based off of Android 18.
Yeah, well,
Who would have guessed?
the inspiration is there.
Freelance secret agent who would later go on to become Terry's most trusted ally, and even at times his on-again, off-again girlfriend. Now,
On again, off again? What's happening? Terry, bro, you good? or is this like a Resident Evil situation between Leon and Ada or something like that?
No idea.
Perhaps. I'm pretty sure I know this character though, Blue Mary. Is she in King of Fighters? Because we didn't see her in City of the Wolves. At least not yet.
I don't recognize her. But
I think her design is definitely different nowadays though. It's not just straight up Android 18.
I wanted to save her for the end because, as I've said many times already, This series set out to establish itself as being more street level, focusing on more down-to-earth and real characters rather than on superpowered magical fighters of legend.
My God,
and just like how I praised the Pow Pow Cafe for being their hangout spot, I kind of love that Terry Bogard just has a girlfriend. Like, not a long-lost love from a faraway magical land, not some girl who pines over him, but they can never be together because battle is Terry's one true love. No, he and Blue Mary go out to dinner, and then they go bowling, and then they watch a movie together. And then they talk about that time that Terry kicked Geese off of his tower, and they laugh about it. Giving him a girlfriend is such a normal thing, and it's another way that this game showed it was establishing a more relatable world, as well as progressing these characters ahead with each installment. And that is it for the original Fatal Fury trilogy. This series introduced so many beloved characters and so many unique gameplay elements, but as you can see, the game took a while to really find itself. It's obvious that it wasn't until the third installment that it really got in touch with the speed and rhythm of SNK fighters, as well as achieving the tone and art style that it always wanted to have.
Well, technology, ideas, iterations of said ideas after playtesting and whatnot, these things happen. They take time. And I'm glad that they got to this point, though, because this is really something special. Like, I've never seen anything like this before.
Definitely. I can see why it has been the beloved series that it is. Like, it makes sense, though.
But when it comes to the next Fatal Fury franchise, they took everything they learned from the third game and heavily leaned into it.
Hell yeah.
As you should.
Hey, it worked. Oh, wait. That was the exact pose Terry was in when he got the card for Smash.
The Smash Ultimate. Yeah.
I guess this game is going to be iconic. Freaking geese.
In December of 1995, less than 1 year after Fatal Fury 3, the franchise returned with a brand new title that was meant to, for lack of a better term, be the Fatal Fury Greatest Hits Collection. It was meant to re-energize the franchise, which is a weird thing to say about a game that had an installment 10 months earlier. For the first time ever, no new characters were introduced, as every character from Fatal Fury 3 returned, as well as fan favorites Billy Kane, Duck King, and Kim Kapwan, to really try and capture a best of the best vibe of the series. Now, even though it was a spiritual relaunch, continuity-wise, it still continued the story of the previous games, while still having the same story as the previous games. You see, in addition to the returning cast, the boss was once again going to be Geese Howard. But don't look at this like it's all about retraining old ground. No, there was definitely a different tone to this fight. SNK actually promoted this game by saying, quote, "The last battle between Geese and the brothers Bogard is about to begin." Yeah, they hyped this up as the true finale to the Geese Howard Terry Bogard saga, which is a brilliant way to reuse characters and assets from the previous games while making it feel bigger and more important than ever. The plot of this game, as I said, followed up on the events of Fatal Fury 3. Geese Howard had now obtained all 3 of the legendary scrolls, but rather than using their power to gain immortality, he destroyed them so no one could use their power against him. He then goes out before the public to announce that the rumors of his demise had been greatly exaggerated, and he was ready to lead his company as a shining beacon of Southtown, which...
Wait, that's a Mega Mind reference, isn't it?
Is it? I don't even know where that originates.
It might originate from somewhere else, but I do remember.
I do know it from Mega Mind, yeah.
For all the people who knew about his criminal empire, knew what he was actually saying was, "I'm back and Southtown is mine." And so Geese launches a new King of Fighters tournament and invites some of the biggest fighters from the past in order to stage his greatest victory ever and prove his superiority once and for all.
That the main villain's name is Geese.
What, you like beating up birds? Is that it?
It's just so funny.
Again, yes, this is essentially just Fatal Fury 1 again with characters from all 3 games, but man, did they know how to sell it.
After birds because you also have Duck Howard.
Oh, you're right. True.
Sell it, they did. If I had to describe the Real Bout series, it would be like someone looked at Fatal Fury 3 and said, "Hey, let's do that, but be as extra as possible." From the character select screen to the giant combo counter to the flashing power gauge, the presentation of the Real Bout games were in your face and over the top.
This is starting to seem like more modern fighting games, where you do have the combos, you have the reversals, you have counter hits, and they're all popping up on screen like that. Some lean into it much more than others, like say Guilty Gear Strive. But I don't think we saw this before in the previous Fatal Fury games.
Making these the flashiest Fatal Furies ever. Realbout also introduced a handful of new mechanics that would spice things up even further. I already mentioned the power gauge, which when half full allowed you to do guard cancels, special counterattacks that you could perform when blocking, and when it was filled to the max, it would then transform based on how much life you had left. If you had more than half of your health left, then the power gauge would go into S power, and during this time, the energy in your gauge would start to drain, and while it was draining, you could perform your super special. But if you had less than half of your health, then the power gauge would go into P power, and your energy would still gradually drain. But now, while it was draining, you could perform your super special as many times as you wanted, and you could also perform each character's most powerful attack called the Hidden Ability. This made the power gauge different from most super meters, as it was built around serving as a comeback mechanic to help you turn the tide of battle if you were losing. And of course, possibly the most notable change was the introduction of ring outs. Now, several other games at the time had already used ring outs, but typically you just got close to the edge, stepped off, and that was it. No real.
A ring out in a 2D fighting game?
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I've only ever seen them in 3D ones, but yeah, sure, why not? It's like it's a real match. And bro fell down the elevator shaft. What are you gonna do? He lost. I must say too that the animations for the super moves look really damn good. This game was going for that presentation.
Fluid,
yeah, presentation definitely like upscaled immensely here. Just seeing this game at the time probably would make you want to go out and play this.
Fanfare about it. In Realbout, the edge of the ring would be blocked off by a barrier that
you was not expecting that, not gonna lie.
You would have to slam your opponent into several times before breaking it apart. Then they would get a special animation for when they finally got knocked off, making it feel like you didn't get lucky with a ring out, but instead it was something that you earned, and now the game was rewarding you for it. The game would once again end with Terry Bogard knocking Geese Howard off of his tower. Told you you'd see that again. Except this time, rather than Geese going out in a way that looks like it should have the Goofy scream attached to it.
That was, I'm fairly certain that's the first pretzel motion move. It might not be the first, but it's the one that's referenced a lot. The pretzel motion super.
No, thank you.
Geese is built different.
Now, there was so much more drama to this moment. The two eternal rivals unleashed their most powerful attacks. Terry's power geyser clashing with Geese's raging storm. Terry runs out to catch Geese as he bursts through the rafters, because even after all he's done, Terry isn't about to let Geese die. But then Geese looks up at Terry and realizes he would rather die on his own terms than be saved by Terry Bogard. So he brushes his hand aside and falls to his final death, laughing the whole way down. Truly one of the most iconic endings to any video game villain ever. It took a couple years, but this game had now finally achieved the cinematic movie quality sequences it set out to create in the first place. And you know something? Speaking of Terry, this is something I've been wanting to bring up for a while, but this is the best opportunity. I would say that in addition to the improved graphics, the gameplay, and the conclusion to Geese's story, I would argue that maybe the most important addition Realbout provided to the Fatal Fury series is that this is the game that, to me, finally started to understand the appeal of Terry Bogard. This is when they finally got it. In the previous games, they were trying way too hard to make Terry just another generic 90s American action hero. In fact, in Fatal Fury 3, most of the characters had their personalities firmly cemented, but Terry...
I mean, I can imagine it's because you can see all the inspirations from the old action movies that, yeah, this was their ideal hero. They weren't really making their own character. They wanted to make their own character based off of the image that they had in their head of what an American action hero would be like.
It was being written almost as a gruff a-hole. They still didn't know what they wanted to do with this character. But it was in this game, and in all of his future appearances in both Fatal Fury and King of Fighters, that they realized what makes Terry special. He's just a dude, and a good dude at that. He's not some legendary warrior who travels the world looking for battle. He isn't the chosen one who spent his life training for his destiny. He spends his weekends fishing. He plays basketball with the neighborhood kids to be a good role.
We had just recorded the Fantastic Four reaction. And this is really making me think of that, of the points that we brought up in that video with the character being grounded, much more relatable. And so it creates this instant connection with the player or the viewer, the reader, whoever may be looking at the media. That the Chosen One storyline isn't really going to resonate like that. So you can do a lot of unique things with this type of character, especially if everybody else is going for the Chosen One line. I'm glad that we chose this.
Role model for them. His hobbies include eating hot dogs and hamburgers. Ryu is the kind of guy who travels across the world to stop a dictator. Terry Bogard is the guy everyone in Southtown calls when they need help moving a couch. He's just a local guy doing right in his neighborhood. Now, for many people, this is where the original Fatal Fury franchise wraps up. But it's not where the real bout games wrapped up.
All right, well...
This has been really fun, so I can understand.
Yeah, sorry. I got super into it. But yeah, guys, Serpy's got to leave, so I'm going to have to cut off the video here. We'll pick up from where we last left off next time. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Look out for part 2. Catch you guys then.
Yes. Bye-bye.
Later, dudes.